Tosha Ford. I'm the community outreach manager for Construction Ready, so I'm on the recruitment team, to recruit throughout the entire state of Georgia. So let me just give you an update. I wanted to start, because we're working within the reentry space, I wanted to start with that story about Mr. Green. Mr. Green, that was his story that was totally unsolicited. That was his testimony to the church. So there was a series that Word of Faith was hosting called A Heart for the House. So anybody could share a testimony about anything. You know, husbands and wives that got back together after they were fighting and, you know, whatever. So he decided to share that testimony about Construction Ready. And it took him a while, like he was saying, it took him a while for him to realize that, you know, he could do something different. He knew that he wanted to excel, to succeed, to be an example. He just didn't know where to direct it. Since that update, now he has gone through the program. He graduated in 2019, the summer 2019, I believe. He's gone on to be, one of the stars on the job site that we connected him with. You know, not just a car, but he's a homeowner. He is, raising dogs, dog breeder, just a lot of things going on, doing, carpentry projects, home renovations on the side as well. But his main occupation is a heavy equipment operator. And that was after going through different cycles. He started off at the airport with a company that was doing the expansion on the runway and started up carpentry. So he's done a lot of different things, and we were all, able to see that progress. Another update, another important thing to note is that I want to lift up that he is one of our number one referral sources. So he sent more people to us than I can imagine. His younger brother came through the program, right out of high school. He graduated last May, and was in our class by July or August. He went to follow in his footsteps. So Construction Ready is a workforce development training program. So it's designed for construction and the skilled trades specifically. We are a nonprofit organization, and part of our funding is through WorkSource Georgia. So our training is provided at no cost to eligible residents for the WIOA grant. Our goal is to get people trained, credentialed, and ready to work. However, we're apprenticeship readiness and career readiness training. So whatever it is that you want to do, we help you with that to develop that career path opportunity. Our website is constructionready.org. You can see some of the backstory about the organization. The organization itself, the parent organization, nonprofit, has been around since 1993, but we started the adult training program in 2014. And we partnered with HB Next to provide the instructors for the classroom, so we all work together to provide that.
And HB Next, what is that?
HB Next, that is so it's a company that trains existing construction employees all over the world.
Okay.
Yeah, so like if there was, that's just the name of it, HB Next. It is actually based in Lawrenceville. So if let's just say there's some new government regulation that comes out and you own a construction company, they would, all of your employees would have to get that particular training. So,
Okay.
So what is Construction Ready? We're a free 4-week boot camp style program. It's offered at no cost, like I said, to eligible adults in Georgia. Boot camp style meaning that it's an accelerated program. It's 4 weeks, so the classes are in person. They're 20 days. The classes are 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and we do it at an accelerated pace because people that really want to do this work, that really love this industry, they're ready to go. We could extend it to 3 to 6 months, but we condense it to make it more palatable for people to get their career started. For adults in Georgia, we do have a pilot program in Jacksonville, Florida, but we're here to talk about Georgia. So we connect our trainees with the top construction companies. We provide career paths for commercial. We focus on commercial because that industry provides a more stable career path. We want our students to be connected with companies if they choose to go directly with the company. We want them to get a competitive salary, benefits, opportunities for overtime, advancement, and things like that. So that's why we focus on construction. And as a nonprofit, our employer partners, they have certain criteria that they have to meet as well. So it's designed for people in a career in construction and not just a job. So we're not a temp agency or anything like that. We are a training program with job placement assistance, with career pathway assistance. So you wanna go to directly to a job site, if you wanna go into an apprenticeship program, become a skilled professional, we have the connections with the apprenticeship programs and the unions and the companies as well, and the technical schools. So some of our metrics, we graduated 1,282 individuals since 2014. Actually, these numbers are a little higher because we just had a graduation Friday in Augusta. 1,237 of those graduates were placed into full-time jobs. So it's a 97% overall placement rate since the history of the program. But however, since January of 2020, we've had 100% placement at every class at every location. So we're at 7 locations statewide right now. We have 4 in Metro Atlanta, and we added 3 additional last year. So anybody that came through the program last year, they got a job if they wanted it. Our students earn up to 8 industry recognized credentials and certification. Those are important because, of course, that's what's gonna set you apart from anybody on the job site or if you go into an apprenticeship program. We keep up with our students up to 365 days after graduation. So that results in a 70% retention of the students that are still in the industry after a year. And since it is Women in Construction Week, I'm happy to report that since January of 2020, 35% of our graduates have been women. So we figured out the diversity angle, and a lot of women only make up 10% of the entire construction workforce, but 35% are coming through our program. So something that is attracting to us, and women are doing very well in the industry. A lot of them are going in, getting leadership roles right away, start their own businesses, so they're doing really well. So some of the credentials, I won't go into them in too much detail, but what's important is that the credentials are nationally recognized. So if you take the class, you decide you want to move out of Georgia, go ahead and they're valid. The curriculum is focused on safety, and the students have to earn the credentials. So it's a very heavy academic-based program. So all of the modules associated with the credentials are graded on them, and you have to pass the test. So it's very fast-paced. So in 20 days, the first 18 days is all of the academic portion for the credentials. And every day you're learning a different subject. So one day might be blueprint reading, the next day might be construction math, and so on. So it's very fast-paced. So there's the instructor will lead a lecture. The students will take a written test, actually on a computer, and then they'll also do a hands-on exercise every day for the first 18 days. The 19th day is when we have the hiring fair, where we invite the contractors, apprenticeship programs, the unions, to come in and interview our students and give them offers. So the NCCR for credential, that's the one that's, the biggest one. That is why we're where we get our national accreditation from. So the core credential covers all of the fundamentals of construction. So it gives you a broad range of knowledge, an introduction into the different occupations and the different trades. So it doesn't go into deep detail, but it gives you enough so you can decide, okay, I want to go on and be an electrician or HVAC technician. OSHA 10-hour, that's your passport to get on any job site. Everything else is the other credentials are relevant in the marketplace right now. These are $1,500 worth of credentials that the students are not paying for, and that the employers are not having to pay for because the students are coming in with those already. So the eligibility requirements, students have to be 18 years of age and older, not currently enrolled in high school. They don't have to have a GED or a high school diploma for our program. However, for some, apprenticeship programs or some other programs that might be required, and we have a relationship, so we would tell the student in advance. They need to qualify for tuition assistance through WorkSource Georgia. It's just submitting basic documents like proof of residence, proof of income, and so forth. So we are a training provider through WorkSource Georgia. They provide the student with the voucher, so the students have to apply for the grant on their own, and then they issue the training voucher to the student to take the training. So that's how that works. And what's provided is, covers the cost of tuition, it covers the, books and supplies, they get, the cost of the credentials, of course, they get, PPE, which is hard hat, safety vest, safety goggles, hearing protection, work gloves, steel toe boots, and also free lunch every day while they're in class. So all of that is covered under that grant. Don't be excited, it's the same thing every day. It's not hot lunch.
Chick-fil-A.
Jason's Deli. So we have a point system, because the program is accountability based and because it's very fast paced. A lot of individuals, you don't have to have experience to get into the program, but a lot of individuals, when they get on a commercial site, it can be overwhelming. So everything from the curriculum to the way that the classrooms, themselves are designed, is designed to mimic a job site. So when you're in the classroom, we're trying to unlearn some bad habits and replace them with good habits. And we don't have a system where we fire the students. It's accountability based. Everybody starts off with 100 points. If you fall below 70 for violating any infractions, you fire yourself from the program. And we do that because we have a maximum class size of 20 students. We have one instructor in the classroom, one site manager, construction ready employee, and we need to stay on task to make sure we get through all the material. If you fire yourself, as long as it's not you don't break the law or anything like that, you're welcome to come back, but get at the end of the line once you're focused. I'm not gonna go over all those examples, but again, one that I'll point out that's a really big deal is using your phone during class. Everybody walks around with the cell phones in their hand all day. That doesn't work on a job site.
Right.
It's just like being under the influence. And it's so serious in this industry that if you get caught with your phone that's not directly related to your job, they'll either fire you on the spot or walk you to the gate. Like, no questions asked. And that's something that, that's discussed. So we do that, again, like I said, to prepare them for what they're gonna endure. So in the actual classroom, the students are given a secure area to store their personal belongings. And you can use your phone in class, on your breaks. You get 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch, just like a job site. So let me go through the other eligibility requirements too. We backtrack a little bit. So students have to pass a drug screening and criminal background check. We're drug-free, background-friendly. The only two so we drug screen on the front end and every week throughout the class. There's only 2 exclusions on the background that are prohibited. That's methamphetamine charges and sexual offenses. And that's not to be, discriminatory or anything like that. That's because if you're working on certain projects, it's harder to get clearances. If you're working on an airport or if you're renovating a school, we just tell people, find another way, but they can't come through our program based on the recommendation from the employers. They have to pass the TABE assessment. That stands for the Test of Adult Basic Education. It's a literacy test to make sure that everybody can read and do basic math on a 4th grade level or higher. Then they have to attend all construction ready enrollment sessions. So go through a pre-screening process. So we have to talk to a lot of people to get down to 20, the top 20 in the class. So the first part is information session. What you're seeing is like an abridged version of an information session that anybody would see. We just go into more detail. Once they complete the info session, either in person, on Zoom, or on the phone, they won't have to do that again. The second part is qualify for their tuition assistance. Once they're issued the voucher, then we invite them to attend onboarding and the industry evaluation. So the onboarding is where we pull the background, drug test them and all that, do a contract, do a career assessment. And the second part is the industry evaluation. Those are 2 separate days. Those always take place the week before the class starts. No matter what time of year, whatever facility, it's the same procedure for everyone. So after all that's completed, the voucher, onboarding, industry evaluation, then the student can start class. We ask them to be physically fit and able to lift 50 pounds. That is, of course, there are a lot of different opportunities in the industry, but if we connect you with an employer and they offer something that's entry level, we just want to make sure that they can fulfill that requirement. They have to attend class for all 20 days. That's one of the stipulations of the WorkSource Georgia, the voucher. Are you going to complete the program? Is this what you really want to do? Because the money is allotted for that specific purpose. For construction being a high demand field, for being a high growth field, we do have to specifically recruit people that want to do the work. So construction occupations are very broad. When a lot of people hear construction, they think it's a job title. It's actually an entire industry with, you know, a lot of people of different skill levels, education levels working together. So it's very easy for you to make a really great living, you know, without a degree. Some people come into our program right now, they're career changers, they already have experience in one thing or another. We just try to, you know, if you've been a teacher before, well, you have leadership ability. You know, ex-military, formerly incarcerated, whatever your skill set is that you develop, there's an avenue for you in construction. And a great site to do some research about what opportunities are available in Georgia, the salaries and the requirements is Build Your Future, byf.org, but Construction Ready is the first place to kickstart your career. This is a picture of the hands-on exercise for the flagger certification. So, like I said, there's an academic portion, hands-on portion. The students have to demonstrate that they can apply what they learned. Graduation day is a big deal, it's a special occasion. You know, we usually invite a public official. The students can now invite their friends and family, and we celebrate together. And I cry at every graduation. I've been doing this 3.5 years now, you would think I'd be old. So here's my contact information. And another thing I wanted to add is that what we're doing specifically for Gwinnett is that we're doing, instead of training at one of our, you know, standing facilities, for Gwinnett, we're training on a site in Norcross. So it's gonna be an active job site that DPR Construction is the general contractor for. So if you know anybody that wants to get into this industry, you know, the great part is that, you know, they have mentors, you know, are instructors or have no less than 20 years of experience in real world experience. They're getting professional development that's included into that academic portion as well. So they get a chance to interact during the 20 days of class with people that are already in the industry. Like we have Luncheon Learns where we invite people to come in to talk about what they do. So, you know, as far as having to, you know, getting the preparation and understanding how to interview specifically for this industry, all that's important. It's not just about getting a job, but it's about keeping a job and, you know, charting the path that you want for yourself. So we always ask our students, you know, just use our network. You know, the program is designed for success. It's quick, simple, to the point. You know, we've had a lot of fun doing what we do. So first step is constructionready.org. That'll go to one of us on it. You know, if you have any referrals, send them to constructionready.org. One of us on the recruitment team, reach out to them and get them started. Any questions?
All right, guys. So my name is McMicken. I am the team lead for our co-responder program with Viewpoint Health. You're gonna have to bear with us on the slideshow. It's kind of a slapdash. So Anna Marie is my technical support right now. So has anybody not heard of Viewpoint before? Okay, so what we do is we are a service provider for people with concerns with mental health, substance use, and IDD, which stands for intellectual developmental disabilities. So you have autism, intellectual disabilities. And I will say in advance that I tend to use a lot of abbreviations and acronyms. So if I say something and y'all don't know what I'm saying, feel free to stop me at any time. So these two are my staff, Anna Marie and Megan over there. So what I will be talking about, this is great.
I know.
Love it. Is specifically our law enforcement program, law enforcement co-responder program. Viewpoint is gigantic. We're over 600, I think we're getting close to 1,000 employees, and we have a bunch of different programs. But we specifically are with community and co-responders. I can't stop laughing. So I wasn't sure what type of audience this would be. So who has either ridden along with or is close with friends or family or significant other with someone who is law enforcement, whether it's sheriffs, police? Show of hands. We got 1, 2.
That doesn't mean the back of the car, does it?
That counts.
That's a long time ago, I mean, we don't have a car,
So the reason would you recommend this option on your computer?
So the reason I ask is I did not know what all cops did until I started riding along. And if you've never dealt with anybody in law enforcement, this is the weirdest job. You will go from welfare calls about someone who's lying in the grass at a Wendy's to, assaults, domestic violence. They respond to dead bodies. They respond to, there is a EMS call and they can't get in the door. So they're concerned that the person who is inside is deceased or there was some sort of emergency. It's a wide gamut of things. My favorite is recently, I'm not sure why, but we get a lot of calls of people at fast food restaurants who are refusing to pay because they didn't like their service, or one of my favorites was they didn't get their sauce. I was like,
Their
okay,
drinks weren't strong enough. There
okay.
wasn't enough alcohol in their drinks.
911 hung up on them, so they figured.
They go out.
You know, yeah.
They actually go out because 911 has been very much a catch-all. So I just wanna make sure that y'all understand, like, for law enforcement, they are walking onto a scene with very little information, and it could be anything. It could be somebody had a bad day, it could be a fight, there could be guns involved, there could be drugs involved, like, we never know. And we are co-responders, so I'm gonna explain.
It's somehow getting worse.
So when someone calls 911, police go out and to that type of situation, and they contact you?
Well, I'm gonna
Okay.
start rolling that way. So in the 80s is when they started collaborating between mental health and police. So at the end of the 80s is when they started CIT, which you guys may have heard of, the Crisis Intervention Training, which is a 40-hour course for officers or anybody. It can be sheriff's department, lots of community providers, but it's geared toward first responders. It's teaching them about de-escalation skills, basic training on mental health, substance use. There's bits about dementia, because with new onset dementia, you're gonna see people who are wandering more than the later onset, or the later stages of dementia. So that's something a first responder needs to know, as well as trauma and veterans. All those kinds of things are in a CIT training. So our program is the co-responder. And the goals of co-responders are, there's multiple different goals. The first one is obviously diversion. So we think of reentry, we think of somebody who is a returning citizen from jail. So our first goal is diversion from jail. And then if somebody is in a mental health crisis and needs to go to a mental health hospital emergency department, that can be a diversion. Somebody could be purely in a mental health crisis and doesn't even need to go to the emergency department. We can divert that, because emergency rooms are made for people who are in a crisis. So if you're having a panic attack, that is a crisis, but it doesn't warrant an emergency room. So from there, we kind of try and divert to the lowest, the least restrictive environment, I would say. With these collaborations, there's also an increase in safety. So what you're doing is you're bringing together two sets of professionals with two different skill sets. So you have officers who talk to people all day, every day, diffusing situations, negotiating, that sort of thing. And then you have the mental health professionals. We're supposed to be approachable, build rapport, validation. And so when you put those two skill sets together and respond to scenes, you have a great duo. And it's interesting because a lot of times people say, oh, when you're bringing someone who's a civilian, they're not wearing police uniform, they're not in a marked car. But it's funny, I've found a lot of people who are paranoid actually prefer the cop to me. So they get to make their choice on who they would prefer to talk to at that time. With those de-escalation, with that person feeling like they get to choose who they talk to, you have an increase in safety, because it's not as, I wish this PowerPoint warrants it as much as I do.
Okay, just keep talking.
Great.
Yeah.
So with these de-escalation skills, these multiple options, you're creating less need for a use of force. And then if you're not going hands-on, there's less chance for injury to the officers as well as to the civilians. There is obviously the benefit of removing law enforcement from non-criminal situations. We call 911 and we want safety, but you also have to think about you're putting somebody with a gun in a situation that maybe they shouldn't have been in. And so that already makes it dangerous. That didn't really need to go that way. Now that's part of this program, excuse me, is why we're doing this, is so that law enforcement doesn't have to be in certain situations.
So is the
Can I say-
911
Yeah.
operator making the call as to, this person needs you?
Yep, we're getting there.
Yeah, that's where I was a little lost too. What do you mean?
So, yeah, as far as the types of co-response, well, when we started this program, the first thing we do is we embed with dispatch. So dispatch is the people who are taking the 911 calls. So we developed a questionnaire on what's going on in the situation. And so if it is clearly just,
Yay!
Can we clap?
Yay!
Alright.
There you go,
Alright.
Andy.
so if a situation where there's clearly no criminal matter, there's no safety concerns, what they do call is a deferral, and just one of us can go out. There are, let's see, actually, if you want to click the next slide. Boom. Okay, so there are different types of co-responders. So true co-responder is when you have a mental health professional. The reason we use QMHP is because a mental health professional can be anyone. It can be a clinician, it can be, so we have social workers, I'm a social worker, we have counselors, there are CPS, which is certified peer specialists, so somebody with lived experience, nurses, nurse practitioners, anybody in that skill set trained with an officer, and so they literally ride around in a patrol car together. Our program director is a true co-responder, so he's paired with one cop, they ride together, they go to calls for service, they go for follow-up calls. It's a pretty dope, it's a cool pairing, because you have a partner with you. Mobile crisis team is, like you had mentioned, something where there's no law enforcement involved at all. The example for Georgia would be our behavioral health line, VHL, GCAL, the Georgia Crisis Line, it's all the same thing. Their MCT, which stands for Mobile Crisis Team, is just a mobile crisis team. They sometimes will call law enforcement to help clear the scene if there's concerns for safety or anything. But they're just their team. There's no safety officers or anything like that. The majority of our programs are what we have started calling a blended co-responder. So myself, Megan, and Anna Marie all are embedded within the law enforcement agency. So we have offices at the police departments. We have our own radios, we have our own badge number. We can talk over the radio, which is definitely its own skill set. And we get dispatched to the scene. So the difference between these two is that with a true co-responder, they're already together going to calls. And with a blended co-responder, that is more the cops or dispatch come out on the scene and think, oh, we need the clinician, so let me call radio for them. We can go to the scene with law enforcement, or if it's a deferral, like we know that somebody is manic and is arguing with their mom that day about not taking their meds, and it only we need to go, we can do that. Clearly does not need an officer. And then we have in-person and telehealth options, sometimes called remote. So somebody's FaceTiming or Zooming or whatever, the clinician can do that so that they can be available for multiple sites. All right, types of calls. So this is my officer. Yeah. So there, as we've done this, we've noticed there are certain types of calls. There's crisis on scene, and so you would think a lot of our crisis calls are someone who is suicidal or homicidal. And actually, from our experience, we found that someone who is in a true crisis has actually, when they get 911 involved, it's more of manic or psychotic or maybe a combination of multiple things, substance use. So a crisis is life and death. This person is just not able to care for themselves. It's making themselves and others unsafe. We also have non-crisis on-scene calls, so that would be like somebody who is maybe having a panic attack or having an episode and needs support, needs us to come out to be there right then, but the situation can be handled. We also have the deferrals where you had asked about sending one of us instead of an officer. And then we also have follow-ups, which are the calls where an officer went out and thinks maybe our mental health clinician should follow up, maybe. So a lot of times that's how we get, our dementia-related calls is somebody will be calling about somebody stalking them or sort of things, and then we find out this person has dementia, new onset dementia, and nobody has really been close enough with them to know that they need this additional support. This is the types of dementia, dispositions. So, does anybody know what a 1013 is? My staff is not included.
Woo.
Okay,
Woo.
what is a 1013?
Well, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I know I've had to call when I'm one of our situations at our transition house.
Is it overdose by suicide or attempted suicide?
A 1013 is like the legal document. It's that hold for when somebody needs to be evaluated. So we'll say 1013 a lot, and it's the legal document that is a involuntary hold for someone to be assessed is what a 1013 is. So those are somebody who is a danger to self, so overdose, a danger to others, so homicidal ideation, threatening to kill others, and then there's a third box, which is unable to care for self due to mental illness. And that's a giant, that's kind of a catch-all. Like one of my favorite examples is a guy who was eating cigarette butts because he thought they were curing him of, I can't remember what disease he thought, but clearly he is making this poor decision because of this false belief. And so that is another case that you would put somebody on an involuntary hold. That is one of our, we try not to do that because that is, you're violating someone's rights. Like at that point, we want to be able to work it down where there's more negotiation. Obviously, there's an arrest, there's another disposition. You can also, if the officer thinks that there is something going on mental health wise or substance use wise, they can do a 1013 in lieu of charges. So instead of the person being taken to jail, they are taken to an emergency department or a mental health hospital, which happens a lot. We can do linkage to providers or resources, so getting them connected with Viewpoint, getting them to see the doctor that week. Very rarely there is a no action needed. That is very rare. All right, hit me with the next one. What we got?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, sir.
Do they get a choice of going to jail or the ER in lieu of arrest there?
Go ahead.
I've had clients say, take me to jail.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to jail, and that is, yeah. I would say the officer has the final say, right? But yeah, there are clients who will be like, just take me to jail.
That was a good question. Yeah, because depending on, what a lot of people don't understand is depending on where you're at, the resources are so limited. Like, there may not be a mental health hospital within a certain amount of hours. So you might be sitting in a tiny little emergency department for days. So it may be more comfortable for you to go to a jail where you know you can shower and you can get meals.
Right.
So it's just, there's so much going on. So I will start wrapping it up. These are where we currently are. We have clinician with Norcross, I'm the one with Conyers. These are my two Lawrenceville ladies. Gwinnett we're taking on, it's gonna be gigantic. They have 6 precincts, and then we have some pending collaborations in DeKalb County. Keep going. So our next steps is we are building our on-call mobile team, because we do have people with these police departments, but there's still more crises than we have staff.
Right. We don't work 24 hours.
You said you're taking on Gwinnett, are you not already partnering with Gwinnett?
We are, we just don't
Okay.
have the staff.
We don't have all 6 people yet. We wanna
Okay.
have 6 clinicians there.
Do they have some?
We have 1 and some change right now.
Really? Cause I was in a meeting with them in, November, and they said that they had, mental health
Gwinnett
professionals.
PD or the sheriff's office?
Gwinnett Police.
Yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
Okay,
we just don't have, it's not fully staffed, but we do have
okay,
clinicians.
okay.
Increasing community partnerships today, streamlining access to services. Next slide for me. Viewpoint, I explained, we do mental health, substance abuse, and IDD services. We are really focusing on the uninsured and the underinsured in the state of Georgia, because that is a huge population that only we can serve because of our state contract. Our easiest methods of access are through our website, myviewpointhealth.org. You can fill out a form and it'll send it to you, send it to the office to call you guys, and then there's our main access line. And I'm done.